A Monday in Chattanooga.
A gloomy and rainy and cold Monday here in Chattanooga. We got no snow. Everywhere around us got snow. Nashville got snow. We got absolutely nothing. But we still got a day, and it's a Monday. January 11th, the year 2021. Welcome aboard Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 442.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, 442.
Did you just call me ranty?
Yeah,
Before this?
You can't, I mean, that's like the pot calling the kettle black, but yeah, you can be a little ranty. Not really. You're more ranty off the air than I am. But once I get this microphone in front of me, I get kind of ranty. But yeah, I said you have the tension to be, you tend to get a little ranty.
I know. I have to. That's because I hold things in, right? It's got to be. I live a lot of isolation, and then when I get around you, I start ranting.
You do. I feel like I'm glad you're comfortable enough to rant with me.
What? Who else would I rant with?
I don't know. I'm just trying to wonder about Maddie and how she's doing. It's like if she's taking all your ranting or taking any dog ears off her life. Hopefully not. She got a lot of attention this weekend.
She did, and she takes it well. I don't rant around her. I just try to throw her love.
Okay, well, you do a good job, and we try to throw you love. And we have twice a week for the last 4+ years, every Monday and Thursday. If it's your first time tuning in, we appreciate you. Hope you've had an awesome start to the new year and you feel good about where things are headed. First of all, you don't have to get there already. Just inch your way. We'll talk about that a little bit today. But again, if it's your first time tuning in, we appreciate it. We have 441 other podcasts for you to go back and listen to. Again, we come to you traditionally on Mondays and Thursdays, but always twice a week. We cover all things triathlon, and we cover a whole lot of life, which thank goodness, because life has been our predominant and main sport here the last 8 to 12 months, it seems like, and it might be here for the next little bit, but we talk about it all. We'll cover swim, bike, and run specific training. We'll do race recaps, race previews. We'll have on a guest every 148 podcasts. But for the most part, Mike and I, as both best friends, coaches, and athletes, sit back, relax, have a nice, open, honest discussion about what's going on with ourselves, sometimes with our athletes. We'll even oftentimes hop into our closed group, which is on Facebook. You can hop in there, answer one simple question, and we will let you in. A lot of awesome people in there, a very wide variety of athletes with different goals that have been in the sport for a very different amount of time. You got beginners, you got people who haven't even raced, you got Ironman champions, you got everyone in between, but everyone is always willing and able to give you feedback and answer. Just so if you feel the need to ask a question, ask one away. You won't get shamed, or there won't be too much sarcasm, because if there is, I'll just yank the cord and they'll be gone. But that's what we do. We have open. You've seen it. We just want to keep the place positive. That's our main focus, and that's honestly the focus that we try to keep for this podcast, is along with keeping you happy and healthy in your training, but just to kind of bring you positive vibes, positive discussions, things that you're probably thinking about. And like I said, we'll talk about plenty of triathlon and triathlon-related topics, but it's how it fits in our life. And I think that's the most important thing, especially right now, is to kind of see how things fit in our life, talk about what you're hopefully thinking, and if you can take something from it, apply it to your daily life in a positive way, then we will have succeeded in our podcast today.
Can I start with a little rant?
Oh, boy. It depends. It depends on what the subject is.
No, I'm kidding. It just happened to be, we record this, my redundancy is on the laptop, and I look over, and there's yet another update.
Oh, another update, huh?
Boy, with these updates, man.
This is a Seinfeld episode. This is a Seinfeld rant. If Seinfeld was still out today, there would be an entire episode based on updates for Skype or for your apps. It is a little bit much. You're like, what are you really changing about the experience?
Perfect like everything we have in the world. I mean, like, easy now.
Is it a segue?
It might be.
Yeah, nicely done. You're
I thought
a little rusty in your media days, but that was a pretty decent segue. I'm glad I've seen you.
Thank God I am rusty, man.
I've seen you better. But no, we hope you all had a great weekend. We had an awesome weekend here at the Hub. We are obviously doing our podcast live here in our office at our training center here in Chattanooga. We had an athlete in last week early from Albuquerque. We had 3 athletes in from Milwaukee Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, Wisconsin in the house. And then we had an athlete just swinging by who's in town, Tennessee, I think, on a little vacation. And Jeff just swung by, talked for a little bit, had some coffee, and then got a little endless pool swim in. So, hey, if you're on the way through, and David Carr swung by as well. I think you missed him on Saturday. He and his wife and his son, the G-Man, they stopped in. They were on their way back from Florida, I think Naples, and just stopped in. So we had what's that? 3, 4, 6 people in the last, 6 days, which is exactly why we started this, was just to see more people, which I think is the opposite, I think, of what it felt like the year was kind of trending towards, which is the opportunity to see more people and connect. So if you're not an athlete that we work with, but you're just on your way through, going through Atlanta, Nashville, wherever, or anywhere, and you want to swing by, say hi, or take a swim, or hop on a treadmill, or use a bike, and you're just kind of needing to get away, and then hit us up. You can email us. We'll cover those in the podcast. But this is the best compliment we've ever gotten, and we get it frequently from people who come in when I ask them how the place feels. What do they get from it? They say it feels like home, which is the best compliment. That's what Aaron says this weekend. It feels homey. It's homey, which is exactly how we want our place to feel. We want it to be your third place. We want it to feel like home.
Yeah,
well, most homes.
Not necessarily like Bally's or something.
Bally's Fitness?
Bally's Fitness.
Most people don't even know what Bally's Fitness is.
That's all I think of, man. Is that not around anymore?
No, I don't think. I mean, maybe there's probably like a few old school ones
up for that place
in California, probably.
I swear, I'm not. I may still be paying for it.
I bet you are.
So impossible to quit.
Right, and that's how gyms work. Like they're not worried about you working out. They're worried about getting like $29.99 for a 10-year contract. And they're like, how do you get out of it? You can't. You literally can't get out of it. I used to be in that business, and they were like, you don't want to eat. Like seriously, if you don't know this, I used to work in the gym industry, business, whatever, for quite a few years, and I was literally told by I was a general manager for a location. I was by the president of the company. He literally said, we don't want to email people, because we don't want to remind them that they have a membership.
Oh,
because people, especially right now, it's January, maybe not, this year in January, but most time people come in, they sign, 3 years, I am getting it. What's $29.99 a month? And very few people, I think, even like scroll through their like monthly bank statements to see like, $29.99, that's not a big deal. Jim, you know what?
I'm going to probably go back.
I'm probably going to go back. I'm probably going to use them. And they got that free tanning. They got unlimited tanning. So I'm probably going to go back, in March, get ready for spring break. What happens the next month? Listen, it's just nice to have. I'll probably get back to things when I feel better. I'm going to get back in shape. I'm going to hit up the ab roller and a few dumbbells here at home. Then I'll be ready to go. They don't want you to keep dinging you for $29.99 a month or whatever it is for the rest of your life.
The dark side. And we don't operate like that.
We do the exact opposite.
Exactly, and that's what I learned.
We annoy the heck out of you twice a week for an hour.
Marketing, we do the exact opposite of that. We don't push things and like fake things out. And I think that's kind of cool that we both came from these weird places, and now we're just like
the antithesis.
That's not the way to run things.
I'm pretty sure there are still people out there paying for AOL. There's probably some senior citizens out there still paying for some dial-up, but. Speaking of dialing up, we want to dial up our podcast to a little more more energy today. But I sent an email out earlier, and I think you and I are both on the same page in terms of things to talk about today. One of the athletes that we work with, Stuart Rogers, who he will tell you if you ask him, he will say he is my favorite. He's my favorite athlete. He's not. His wife is. But he sent me a quote over the weekend from one of our former podcast guests, Steve Magnus, and the quote was this. And there's a million ways to go with it, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic discussion for today. And the quote is this: "Success is about creating situations where pretty good will get the job done the majority of the time. If you need to be perfect to win or have success, you're setting yourself up for disappointment." I riffed on this for a little bit in our weekly email out to the athletes. I 100% agree. Always have. And that's one of the things, like when I mentioned when we onboard athletes is, you put their first week up, and I say, because athletes, let's be honest, athletes love to lie. Athletes lie all the time. Yeah, I can probably handle 16, 20 hours a week, easy. And then you give them like 10 or 12 and they like get in 6. I'm like, well, there was just one of those weeks. I'm like, yeah, we all have one of those weeks more frequently than we have the perfect week. And so I always tell people, when you look at this week that we give you, I don't want you to think, I can maybe get it done. I want you to think to yourself, I can totally get this plus some. Because what I got out of that quote, I think there's a lot of ways to go with it, and I'll hand it over to you, is that, we, especially athletes in general, and then triathletes especially if you're type A, we are champions at overcommitting ourselves, and we are great at stretching ourselves thin. We like to sign up for as many races as possible. If we get a job promotion and we get to take on 20 more hours of work, then what we can do, we're going to sign up for 2 more Ironman, because we need our triathlon life to basically mimic our professional and personal life. And this is, you might think it's counterintuitive, but it's what happens and I see this all the time with the athletes you work with. When life stress goes up, then the impulse to take on more in their hobby or their, whatever they love to do, which, for a lot of them is triathlon, their impulse and desire to do more or go longer also goes up. They just kind of go in balance with each other. And so I think, and that's something for me. You and I talked about on the way in my truck the other day, that there was something I was kind of toying with, even with myself. It's like, there are things that I want to do this year. There are things that I would love to do this year, racing wise. But if I look at, the things that I tend to want to put first in my life and balance with, coaching and the training center and trying to be the best father I can be and being around the weekends, it's like something's kind of got to give. And I think it's a healthy conversation for every athlete to have. And the biggest thing that, I think we look at and talking about, if you need everything in your life to be perfect in order for you to achieve this thing, then you're probably going to set yourself up for failure. And I think oftentimes we're so worried about life going perfectly or aiming for perfect that we fail to just acknowledge and sometimes accept being imperfect, and that we do have a life that's imperfect. We have imperfections. There are things that I'm not very good at, that I always try to work on. But I think I always kind of also know and understand that I'm probably never going to be perfect at those imperfections. And you have to allow room and space for stress, for life, and for those imperfections in order for you to be successful, instead of hoping and planning that your life is going to be perfect. Your job's going to be perfect, your relationships will be perfect, racing's going to be perfect, you're never going to get injured. And if all those things line up, then maybe you'll have the race you want to and do all the hours that you planned.
It's a little bit of a mind virus in a way. I mean, I think that perfectionism thing, it can be, I do think it's probably something like a survival mechanism on some hands, but like it really, if you think about it, detracts from being in the moment. And it's sort of like you just said about how I'm super busy this week, but I really want to up the ante on my training as well. And, I've been doing this now like 9 years or whatever, 8-9 years. And I've sort of been trying to get back into it and building my own schedule and stuff like that. And I find myself gravitating that way as I build my own schedule in Training Peaks. But I have to bring it up because, me, I'm not a big treadmill guy. And on Saturday, I got on there for 30, that, right?
Oh, I know this.
It's 30 minutes. And I was like, yeah. And I took it super easy. And then I brought it back yesterday.
You doubled on the treadmill, which is what, 4 times total in the 7 years, 8 years that I've known you that you've been on the treadmill?
I know, but just let me, I went super slow again. You know how that calibration thing can get all wacky anyway. I didn't even know, but what I did was I just got on there and I was just like, you know what, just chill it, because yesterday felt pretty good. My plantar fasciitis is perfect now. And I'm like, it just feels good. Right. And so I had to really pull in the reins and accept it. But I went for like an hour yesterday or something.
On the treadmill?
Yeah.
What?
105, actually.
Who are... You're such a triathlete. 105 to be exact.
105.
What did you watch or do?
I didn't do any. I listened to music.
Okay, that's good enough.
And it was really enjoyable. And I got done and I'm like...
I feel like I need to check your temperature.
I know, but I've been slowly getting back into it and feeling stronger. And this whole idea of it gave me so much confidence. It was the weirdest thing, because I got done and I'm like, man, I felt like I could go forever. Not forever, but you know what I mean? I felt like I could go another hour if I had to, but I was like, man, it felt really good to just sort of what was that thing? Kind of get it done. What did he say in that quote? Just enough?
Yeah, just whatever. Enough.
It felt like just enough. And it's to me, that's a lesson that just for whatever reason is so hard to learn. And that's why I said I feel like it's almost a mind virus at some point, because we keep going back through that loop with it. And I'm just, I don't know, sometimes things crystallize, right? And I think, I don't want to say that was the moment or anything, but it felt like a moment. And that's why it's always so weird that we have this kind of continuity with our thought process. Sometimes when that email came out, I'm like, wow, man, that did feel exactly like just enough. And it's got me sort of excited about training again. So like, how do you, I mean, like in a genuine way, you always say, I'm ready to go back or whatever. But like now it just feels like I'm going to just keep rolling like this, man. I don't have to break any records. I think the biggest thing we always have to do is slow down. And you put it in there, I think a slow burn.
I think one of the best things for athletes to do, and I've had multiple athletes do this to start 2021, is that, you know, we all get very gung ho about New Year's and races and new opportunities and new experiences and, you know, like you said, getting back into the swing of things like you are. We get very, very excited, and with that excitement, we become very much a prisoner of the moment. We do this with sports games. Oh, it's the greatest game I've ever watched in my entire life. Greatest trip I've ever been on in my entire life. It was seriously the best concert I've ever been to in my entire life. Very much a prisoner of the moment when it comes to stuff like that. Which it's common, but the more excited we get, the more we kind of get like imprisoned in like, this moment is the greatest and it must happen now. And I can now plan my entire life, my entire season, everything else based on this one single moment that felt absolutely wonderful. And so everyone does at the time of year. They got their race schedule laid out. There hasn't been any interruptions, whether you're optimistic, whether you're pessimistic, whether you're naive, whether you're whatever. What you're thinking is, this race schedule's here. No races have been canned. Everything looks perfect. I'm jazzed. I'm ready to go. Give me all the hours. Let's do more than we did last year. And so like I said before, what I've done with quite a few athletes this year is like, all right, let's do a volume check. I'd like for you to do, so on a Monday, I'll give them one quality, what I call quality bike workout. Like, you know, they're all quality, but like with some intervals. And then, you know, a run with a few strides or a few 30, 45 second bursts, or maybe even some 1 minute efforts in there. Maybe even a Moneghetti if I like him a lot because that's our favorite run. And then one swim. And I say, outside of that, get in as much volume as you can. I'm going to let you drive the train. But everything has to be easy. Everything has to be very, very, very easy. And obviously, it's not like, hey, go out and do a 20-mile run and the last you did was 8. But what I want them to do is show me that they can. Don't tell me that you can. Don't want to. Don't hope that you can. Don't, see it as the greatest way of happening, but show me. Because when you get in this mindset of just getting it done no matter what, and you just love being in the process of things, and no matter how long it takes, no matter what kind of workout it is, you find the time to get it done. And you're the way you felt after your hour and 5 minute treadmill run that was exactly how you should feel, honestly, after 85-90% of all your sessions. You should feel like that was just enough, appropriately challenging, or I could have gone forever. Because the next time you run in a week or two and it's an hour and 15, you could say, I could go forever. And the next, couple more weeks, an hour and a half, I feel like I could run forever. It doesn't have to be, nor it should be, the weekly beat down of your body, which is especially what happens on long runs, which is like, 10 miles this week, 12 the next. Your body needs longer to adapt to that kind of time. Like we've gone on this before, and I'm not going to get our ranty today, but at least not yet. But that's how it's supposed to be. It should all feel appropriately challenging, like it's enough. So I'll tell, all right, show me you get as much volume, because what you do is you put them now in charge of getting in as much as they can. They try better with their time management. If they can get time, they can. And then usually almost every single time what happens, they come back, okay, maybe I couldn't get the 16 hours in, but I could get 12. Because it forces them to find the time, because it kind of puts the ball in their court to be really motivated for their time management. I'm going to find more time today. I'm going to get more time. And if they're looking for just straight volume and taking it easy, they also usually just take it easier. They'll go nice and chill and slow, kind of like your run was on the treadmill. It was just relaxed. It was purposeful, but it was relaxed. And I think that's a kind of a thought that a lot of athletes don't have when they do longer runs or things that they think are going to matter as much, that it doesn't have to feel hard or impossible or, epic, or I crush myself, or, something that just really, guts you and puts you in the ground to be beneficial. Like, honestly, like if those aren't there, if the other workouts aren't there, then that one's not going to matter. You just beat yourself down. And so you need to feel energized. You need to feel like that was good, that you were doing something great for your body. And so I do that quite frequently. And I think so if you're self-coached and you're trying to figure out how many hours, do I have this week? How many do I, can I handle? It can be helpful in getting yourself to figure out on your own, how much can I really handle? And let me rephrase. It helps you find out the combination of what I want to handle and what I can handle, and then what am I willing to handle? Because it's not always about what you want. It's about where your life fits in, with the rest of it, and how you're going to work those puzzle pieces around. Because, a lot of people that would love to train 15, 20 hours a week, but yeah, you also have jobs, you also have kids, you also have other responsibilities that are unpredictable. That's just not feasible. So you kind of have to balance the want and the will and the can with all of that, and then kind of find a happy place. And if you are a person that has to have, as your life sits right now, the way it is right now, not the way you want it to be, not the way that you hope it's going to be in June or July, or that you think it might be in March, or that you can probably see things going in September, but the way it is right now, what you need to look at and think, I can do, because what you might say is, I want to do an Ironman this year. Your life is basically looking at you and laughing in the corner and being like, you're so stupid. Like, here he goes Jimmy again, thinking he's going to do an Ironman this year. Little does he know, he's got no time. And his kids take up all his time. And his work's going to have him traveling again. And he's going to be stressed. He's going to get a promotion. But good luck, Jimmy. It's like, yeah. But we have this, like, we can force on our body and we can force on, but you can. So is it going back to the, lining things up perfectly? The way that you look at it is in terms of like success is about creating situations where pretty good will get the job done the majority of the time. For a lot of people, that looks more like a 10K or a half marathon year or a sprint and Olympic 70.3 year than it does an Ironman, where you might need everything to be perfect for it to line up, especially because then you think about the expectations that most people heap on themselves, along with this perfect scenario and perfect life and perfect lead up. Then they want the perfect result. And to have all those expectations and all that pressure, like, I can't imagine a process and a journey to where any of that is fun and any of that, leaves you feeling like energized after a workout, because I generally think you're probably holding your breath. I made it through another week, thank God. Instead of being like, there we go, another week, that was fun, did it, moving on to the next one. You feel like you can't mess up ever. And I think that amount of stress and pressure only, it breaks athletes down mentally and emotionally, probably long before it does physically.
Yeah, you're talking like 20, 30 weeks away from your A race right now for a lot of people or whatever. And like, I swear, I mean, I think a lot of people probably feel this way, but for me, the big success variable is 90% getting out of the pool, off of the bike or off of a treadmill or off running, and really looking forward to tomorrow. And I know we've talked about that a lot, but again, it's sort of like this thing where you put it back out there and you kind of put it out to the world and you start remembering, it crystallizes into your brain. It's sort of like, and that's sort of how I'm feeling right now. And for me, that easy run yesterday felt like it really just, scratched the right itch. And then, but I don't feel that way on the bike necessarily yet. For me, the bike quotient has been sort of shorter with a little more intensity, like, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, where I mix in some intervals and kind of bust it up a little bit. And that feels better to me right now. And I haven't been swimming a lot, but I think that'll sort of be the same thing in the pool, where I'm not going to be like just intrigued to go a long time slow. I think I like the idea of kind of getting in and getting out and just sort of ramping up my desires for cycling in. I feel pretty good about biking right now, but that sort of slow zone 1, zone 2 thing isn't really connecting with me right now for some reason. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on what that's all about, but like, I just sort of feel better when I get off a hard bike. It's the weirdest thing. And we always talk about work speed in the pool and on the bike more so or intensity than on the run. And I for whatever, maybe it's my mountain bike history where I'm just used to kind of exploding a lot. It just feels better to me right now. It always kind of has, rather than just kind of the lollygagging around.
Well, I mean, I think that's the human psyche, right? It's like more people get not all, most people get jazzed up for the hard workouts because they're important, they're exciting. I'm going to push myself. Although some athletes they get nervous, they get anxious, but it's like if I was like, dude, we got to go eat at this restaurant. It is the best. You've got to come. You and I go the moment the food hits the table and be like, doesn't that look good? Mm-hmm. No matter what it tastes like, the first bite, I'd be like, oh my God, this is serious. See, I told you, it's incredible, right? We know people do that, whether it's, going to see a concert, going to a place to eat, going on vacation, be like, isn't this place great? Like, it's love. And you're like, yeah, it's kind of all right. But you're going to continue to sell the excitement that you already have. And so we do that with workouts. You feel more accomplished. You get more jazzed up because you were more jazzed up to get on the bike in general. And I do. I think a lot of athletes, there is, 80%, 75, 80, 89, 90, whatever it is, depending on who you are, like a lot of the work can be boring, and frankly, it should be. But if you're having a hard time swallowing that pill to where you're just not doing any work, then it's always better to do work than it is to do no work at all. And so, I go back and forth with athletes like this too. It's like, oh, I'm ready to crush on the bike. I'm like, okay, that's great. Well, we will. Just be patient. We're getting there, and then we have some, but because it's about development, it's about getting where we need to go over time. But on the flip side, and this is if they're still getting the work done, but if they're at the point to where, you are, it's like, I know I need to get in these longer, easier rides. I'm just not there yet. Then fine. If you want to get on the bike and smash yourself, then smash yourself. Is it going to necessarily be the best thing for you development wise? No. But is it going to keep getting you on the bike for now until you maybe get to that place to where you think, all right, I'm starting to see a few things. I get it. I want it. Let's do it. Then that's fine. I get that. That's why, is Peloton my thing? No. Do people want to riff on people who take Peloton class all the time? Sure they do. But they're not trying to do what most people are trying to do. They're just looking to be healthy and relieve some stress and have fun for 45 minutes. So give them a break, right? It's like there's a difference. But what's it doing? It's getting them on a bike. Anything same thing. I have the same thought process with the e-bikes. Like, oh, what's the point in having a motor on your bike? Who gives a shit? If it's getting more people on bikes and getting people outside, then thank you. Let's have more of them. Everyone gets an e-bike. Like I'll do my Oprah Winfrey Christmas. Everyone gets an e-bike. It's about getting people outside and doing things, and they're still pedaling, they're still working. It's just like not everyone has to be an Olympian or not everyone has to be an Ironman, but if it gets you in the general direction or in the same room or around the same crowd, then it's positive. It doesn't have to be something in an immediate transformation that happens overnight. Like it's something that you have to at least gradually do and become to feel comfortable doing it. Like I remember the very, very, very first meeting that I ever went to when I was getting sober. It was like I think I was like 72 hours in, and we took the van into Nashville, and I remember I went to this meeting on a Wednesday night, and I remember sitting down and I looked around the room and I thought, oh my God, is this how I'm going to end up? Like, it was depressing. Like there are meetings that are energizing and like galvanizing and like really exciting and moving. But I remember I looked around the room and it was like a dark day in November and it was just cold and rainy and it was at nighttime. And I just remember thinking, oh, everyone looks like depressed. Like this is not what I want my life to be like. But I kept going. But the point was I got in the room. And the point is I got accustomed to what it was like to be in the room and be a part of the tradition and to say and to get up and say the things you need to say and to feel comfortable actually speaking up and saying things. And so the more I went, the more I got comfortable. And the more I went, I got around different people. The more I went, I saw different rooms. But in order to get to that place where I actually found a room and a group and a meeting and felt comfortable standing up in front of 60 strangers and talking about my life, I had to start at, I don't know if I like this or not, but I had to keep going, right? And so, but if I quit going, then I don't know where I would be, right? And so, like when it comes to, it's not an apples to apples comparing, obviously, but it's just about getting on the bike, right? It's almost like like going back to an A thing. People say, "Oh, just fake it till you make it." I'm not sure that I'm totally behind that, but that's kind of the same thing. It's like getting on the bike. Well, just fake doing the right things. But as long as you're getting on the saddle, better things are happening than not being on the saddle, right? And so I think if you're struggling right now with like developing in a certain way, it's like it's all about just getting on and doing it. And frankly, that's 80% of the way, right? Is just being, because that's how we do it. Like we do this to, and I go back and forth with this all the time in my own head. It's like a coach whose goal and job and what we're hired to do is help athletes achieve their goals. Is a lot of athletes still like all they really care about is just being healthy and relieving stress and feeling like they're, being held accountable and doing something positive for their life and setting an example for the kids. Like the racing and the time results, they're like way down the list, like not even in the top 5. And so if that looks like getting on the bike and, and getting after it, once a week or even twice a week, as long as you're not smashing yourself and like ripping up your immune system and causing more stress, because then again, like that's the thing, if you're stress is stress. And when you work out hard, you're creating more stress. So you can't do it all the time, but I think there is a happy balance but you have very good awareness of your body and like what your body needs or doesn't need. You're not a person who just, puts on their blinders like, I'm just going to hammer myself to knee. Of course, we all do that at some point, but you're not a person who does it daily. And so it's not something I would be worried about with you specifically, but other athletes are that way and they will just drive themselves into the ground. They need someone to rein them back. They don't need someone to push them forward.
Yeah. No, you're totally right on that. I think as you're talking about that, I was sort of like, I felt like in that run yesterday, I was zone 2, and I think maybe I haven't quite found my real zone 2 yet on the bike right now, because it's sort of like you want to be back where you were or whatever, but you get on a bike and if you pedal, like let's just say hypothetically your FTP is 200 or whatever, and you get on a bike and you're kind of loosening up at 100. To me, that feels a little bit like sitting on a fence post or something. You're not, I don't, it's like not, you're spinning super easy and really nothing happening. But like, as you warm up, your zone 2 will probably be more towards 150, 160 or whatever. And that's sort of like how I felt the other day. I did this. I don't feel like I smashed it because I am that way. I don't like go overboard. I tried to do that little FTP test you were throwing around on whatever. It's like, warm up, then you do 30 minutes and you take the last 20-minute average. And I warmed up, did the first 10 minutes and warmed into my 20 minutes. And I kind of stopped halfway through because I was like, okay, that's about it. Because I timed it out wrong and everything. But then I backed it down and it was still a fairly, I guess, hard spin. But I felt really good at the end of it. And I was, like I wasn't pushing those huge watts, but I was pushing it, I wasn't like overdoing it, but I felt like I just love that feeling. And maybe that's that big gear work and that sort of power on the bike thing that really just makes me feel good. And I think I have a hard time really laying back on the bike. And that's why I was so happy I found it on the run, because I'm kind of the same way, but I think it's just a little easier to, sort of settle in while you're running at a comfortable pace, because running's just so hard. I mean, like it feels like you're doing something regardless of how slow you're going. But if you're on a bike and you're just kind of coasting or whatever, it's just like easy time, So I think there's that fine line, or that sort of, how do you find your sweet spot, zone 2 sweet spot or whatever it is.
It's no, and I
you can push more than you think you can on the bike.
You always can, which is the point. Like you're supposed to, you have to have those days, and also in order to have the days if you want to able to push more. If you don't, then you just have to be okay with just pushing the same and just pushing as much as you want to, and having that let you feel good, but you may not want to push more. So if it's more so that you like the feeling of it, then that's also okay. I think that's important to note, is that you don't have, everyone's goals are different. Everyone's patience level is different. We're all trying to get something different. Every one of us, we all have races to do, and that's kind of what in a sport that we participate in, and that's what kind of galvanizes us as a community and brings us together and gives us a topic of conversation. But we're all in it for selfish reasons, right? We're all in it for ourselves. We're all doing it for ourselves. And some people it's to lose weight. Some people it's to challenge themselves to be, to set a better example for their kids. For some people it's to help with their, depression and anxiety. For some people, it's to prove people wrong. For some people, it's to qualify for Kona. For some people, it's to, do an Ironman. Like everyone has a different thing, and so it's important. And that's another thing. Like when we try to compare ourselves to everyone else and the workouts that they're doing, and why are they doing it? Why are we doing it? Like it's important to know, like that's for them. That's not for me. That's for them. But there are ways that a guy like you can get away with that sometimes. It might be something as simple as like, all right, well, if you really, really like, big gear work and smashing it, big gear work isn't supposed to be something very high heart rate, very high thrust. It's supposed to be more of like a strength endurance builder. Then do that, but do that within the integrity of trying to keep it more of a zone 2 feel. So that might look like putting it in, 45, 50 cadence and seeing how long you can go for before your pedal stroke starts to fade, but still staying in a zone 2 feel. Like that was something I did. This is like 8 or 9 years, 10 years ago. Yeah, about 9 or 10 years ago, I did like a little mini camp for 3 athletes that came into town training for Lake Placid. And they were, at that point in time, they were much, much slower than I was, just from a pace and a fitness standpoint, which is totally fine, but I still wanted to be able to ride with them. And so we went out to the trace for a long ride, and I made a deal with myself. I said, no matter what today, no matter what, you're going to be in the biggest gear on your bike regardless. And so we were on flats. I was pushing the biggest gear that I could as slow as I could, and we were going up the hills. I was purposely moving as slow as I could in that big ring, and the biggest thing I had, and the biggest gear I had, because I was still getting the same workout but going the same speed. I felt like I wasn't out of breath, but I could just feel the deep muscular burn. That's why people love bigger work, because it's not, because there are people who love to go fast and love to be out of breath and love to just hit the track and go all out and feel like they need to throw up. Then there are also people who just love to like feel strong. Like that's one of my favorite things. People get done doing big gear workout. They're like I could see my legs like not throbbing, but like I could feel myself getting stronger, which is what you want. You want deep strength, especially for long distance racing. So you can do those kind of things, especially if it's going to do one of two things. One, it's going to help you, right? Just by making you stronger. Two, it's getting you on the bike, right? Another positive. It's going to get you on there longer, another positive, right? And it's going to keep you engaged, another positive. So you're probably going to stay on there longer and be more apt to do it again. So like there's so many different things that you have to kind of accept. And as a coach, that you have to accept that too. That some like I have athletes too. They're like, I need something different. You have to give me, and I'm not that guy. I'm a varieties of the week kind of guy. But if that's really what they want, and you can have this discussion like, listen, I'm not 100% for this in terms of your development. However, if it's your rodeo, it's your direction, it's where you want to go. If this is what you want to do, or what's going to get you on the bike, and you and I had this discussion a week or two ago when we were talking about just general coaching and working with athletes, is that if I read in someone's comments and they say, let's say they get a high RPM workout or it's the same, and they're like, I loved this workout. I just really loved it. Then what are you going to do? I'm going to give it to you again, baby. I'm going to give you the same thing. It's like going to a restaurant, ordering one dish, and you're like, this is awesome. Yeah, next time you go back, not? Give me the same thing, baby. Why reinvent the wheel? Give me the exact same thing. You get a state of confusion when you get the ribeye, you get the potatoes, and you get asparagus. That's what I do. That's what you do with workouts. Like, why change it if you know exactly what they like? Because what's going to happen is they're going to be more excited to do it. They're going to want to do it. They're going to get it done. And that's half the battle. You don't have to always change things up all the time, 24/7. And a lot of coaches have that fear because well, if I'm not changing up my workouts, my athletes are going to think I'm not creative. Well, coaching isn't a creativity contest. It's a performance and improvement, job. It's not about, satisfying your athletes' ADHD or their addiction with always doing something different. It's about getting them better. Yes, there is a fine line sometimes with athletes who just struggle in general with focusing or not being internally motivated by something that's specific. You kind of have to be flexible, but but that's the thing. It's like you just have to recognize, I love this, and that is okay. Like I've had an athlete before that's gone through 10 months of training, and all they did for their like threshold or like hard workouts, they went zone 4, zone 5, but it was always big gear. Always. They just had this, for whatever reason, they had a mental block between like really cranking it out. And I told them, I was like, this isn't ideal, but if this is going to get the job done every single time, fine, go for it. And we ended up doing still quite well.
Wow. That's
I'm not telling you that's exactly what you should do because I see your mind wandering.
Yeah,
he's going to let me do big gear all day, every day, 24/7.
Thinking I made up a workout the other day just out of the blue on the bike. I was on that Watt bike, right? And I ended up calling it One Gear Billy.
I like that.
But the reason I did what I did was, and now that you were talking about that, I'm like, maybe I was onto something with that because I'm definitely not a fan of high cadence. It's not my natural state, and I think that's where you're at too, right? You kind of like a lower cadence.
I'm usually
naturally, natural body wants to go to a lower cadence, but like, so I got on there and I did a little warm up, and then I set it in a gear that felt a little bit difficult at 70 cadence. And then I went back, then I did the next, like for 15 minutes, I warmed up and got ready for that. And then I hit that spot and I just left it in that same gear. And then I went back and forth between 70 and 95. So I go a minute on, minute off, minute on. So I was getting some kind of big gear work, but I had a manageable high cadence with a little bit of resistance. I just kept it right there. I did the whole workout in the same gear. I think it might be because of my fear of like getting, what are those DI2, what are the auto shifting?
The DI2 electronic shifting.
Yeah, and
you
get stuck in the gear.
Oh,
because like so many people I know
they get stuck in the gear. Yeah, battery dies.
Or something. And I've always been intrigued by that idea, because I do like that thing you brought up about the trace at camp. A lot of times I think I did this one time. I just put it in my biggest gear and I tried to ride that whole 13-mile stretch in my biggest gear. That was like incredible. I had such a good time with it though. Like just grinding up those hills and those hard, I couldn't do all the hills that way, but there's something to be said for that, just like torque and strength of your, just general power.
Yeah, it's good to feel power, but the biggest win for all of those was what? You just getting on your bike, right? And that's fun. That's the key for so many athletes, is that, and it's the same reason like you want to make it attainable, and you don't want to set athletes up for failure. You want to always set up I can every workout you want to look at and think, I can do this. Not like, I don't know if I can do this. Like these workouts aren't for me. Like these seem way too hard.
120 cadence.
Yeah, like you want to have like, you can try to go there, which is fine, but when it comes like power or, it's giving some people paces or repeats or whatever, it's like you want people to feel empowered and excited and ready to do these things, not like they're too much. And that's also why like you can't give people too much, you can't give too hard of things too often, because then they'll just mentally and emotionally burn out, because those really, really, really hard sessions, they take a lot out of you, and you can't just keep giving it, because at some point they're just going to pop, mentally and emotionally. So like if you're looking at your training schedule and you're trying like, how am I going to set up myself for success? Look at the week that you might lay out perfectly for yourself as things that you want to do. And that might look like swimming 5 times a week, running twice, and biking 3 times. If that's what you need to do to get started, then line up your week like that. And then as you get going, like, all right, well, I know I need to run more, so I'm gonna replace the swim with a run. All right, I'm gonna run 3 times a week this week and only swim 4. I'm gonna free up some time. Work it that way, or I can commit to 12 hours a week. My goal each week, this is something I've done before with athletes who are struggling just to kind of maneuver things around and be flexible, is like, your goal for this week is to work out for 12 hours. I don't care what it looks like. Mm-hmm. It could be 7 hours in the pool, 2 hours on the bike, and 4 hours running. Don't care. Just get out and get the volume in. Once you've committed to spending the time doing the work and in doing your time management and proving that you can do things and finding the way and being excited to do it and being willing to do it day in and day out, then and only then can we start to maneuver our way and move things around and put the puzzle together that makes it look like the 12 hours that we need to look like. So find the time first. Do the time that excites you first. Then and only then, for some athletes, can we work through the details. But most, and this is like such a triathlete thing, is like everyone wants to do the details all the time. It's about the data and the details, when they really they fail to comprehend the importance of the big simple picture, which is just the time and the willingness and the ability to do it consistently, time after time after time after time again. Which is something else I alluded to in our email this morning. It was like, you are what you do consistently, not occasionally. But most people are so obsessed with the details that are required very, very, very occasionally versus the easy details where there aren't really that many besides just getting up and doing the work consistently all the time. But as most athletes are, they'd rather spend more time on Facebook groups and in triathlon forums researching and spending hours and hours and hours finding the next new greatest aero helmet, or the greatest new watch, or the greatest new wheels, or the new bike. And like, those are the details that none of them matter if you're not able to do the work that's required to make them matter. But those are the more fun, those are the fun things. So if you get caught up in the details, or you're having a hard time, motivating yourself, then just go for hours. Just see how many hours you get in this week. It can look however you want to. It can be a 20-minute run in the evening, a 20-minute run in the morning. It can be 70 minutes the next day. It can be 30 minutes the next. It can be 4 hours on the next day. Whatever it needs to look like, because a lot of times that's the key to our own success, is we find that way ourselves, like what we want to do really, and what our life allows, and what we're willing to do within those parameters. And then we can start building the puzzle pieces together. It's like, you don't want to go, all right, well, I have to park myself I have to park my car in the garage. I can't park on the street. I can't park in the driveway. I have to park my car in the garage. Well, what's the first thing you're going to do? Figure out how big your garage is, right? Because if you can't go out and buy, a Ford 750, that's going to be going through the roof and to have the tailgate sticking out. No, you got to figure out exactly how things fit, and I think you got to work the border of the puzzle before you start working the inside. You don't have to, but it's encouraged for puzzle makers.
I'd totally buy the big truck and not fit it before thinking about it. But how you were talking about prisoner in the moment before, and I was just thinking that how that happens, like people, it was the old Lance Armstrong high cadence thing. Everybody got caught up in that, and or that book Born to Run. Everybody wanted to run barefoot or with rubber strapped to their feet, and it just sort of becomes the craze, and I fall for that stuff too, and it's so tempting and everything like that, but just. It's kind of like you always talk about Michael Phelps. People want to swim just like him and be him, but he's just like the perfect prototype that grew up in that situation. And you can't be him. You can't ride like Lance. It may be something to, dip your toe in the water with, or like if you want to. But like for me, I was into that Born to Run thing, and I was all about trying to run in flatter shoes and like with no pad. It just didn't work for me. I'm like, my 50s. I don't know if it's just because maybe I'm not strong enough, or maybe I'm not balanced enough, or maybe there's all these things. But like, until I can, I didn't grow up running that way necessarily, So it's like we want to try to do that. We get caught in those traps and like the high cadence trap and everything like that. But like, and also, he's riding, they're talking about Tour de France and like highest high end riders of the world. And here we are, we're trying to like get off the bike feeling good. We're not trying to get off the bike first. Right?
Yeah, big difference. Two totally different sports. Yeah. But it's, people look at the same thing. Like you said, look at Michael Phelps, and you're like, yeah, well, if you don't have orangutan arms and the longest torso on the planet, things might look a little bit differently than you, right? Or your pulls and everything. We're all built different to do different things. And I think that's something that's so important to understand, is that we're all built different to do different things and to do them well. And that might not look exactly like it will for someone else. And that's okay. Like, we talk about this with every athlete that we have in this pool. Is like, I know you want to swim and look like Michael Phelps or look like these long, effortless, strokes, but you've got T-Rex arms. That's not possible. Like, that's not going to work for you. So we need to work on turnover more than we need to look, because you don't have the ability to be long and strong because you got short arms. You're short in general. Like, you have to work with your body instead of forcing yourself to always be something or someone different, or just because Joe Blow down the street does, like, that doesn't even mean he's doing it the right way or the best for his body. You just might think he's doing it better because he's 30 seconds, Billy down, I don't know, coach, Billy down the street to me, he runs on his 4-foot and he runs like 9s and I run 920s. I'm thinking about changing my run stride. The dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, we continuously compare those small details, and okay, well, you also maybe run twice a week and he runs like 6, or he's been doing this whole life. There are so many different ways to run. There's so many different ways to ride. To this day, my best my best Ironman marathon split comes off as 68 cadence at Ironman Arizona, like 9 years ago. I did a 68 average cadence that day. Now, I'm not saying that's the best for everyone at all, period. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think there is a best way for everyone, and I think that's also the hardest part, is that we always like to look outwardly for answers, right? Because, I just need to be that, or I need to do this, or I need to eat that because so-and-so eats that, and if I eat that, then that's not how it works. Like, life isn't that simple, but it's also not that complicated, right? To complicate our lives with always trying to integrate some total stranger who we know very little about besides, the fact that you somehow became friends on Instagram. I'm like, you know what? That's got to work for me. I'm definitely in that category. Are you? Are you really? The answer is usually you're probably not. Now, you might get a little bit closer, but we all have our own answers, and that goes with everything in life. We all have our own answers, but it's so much easier to look outwardly like, I can probably match myself to this, or I can probably do what he does, or, so-and-so, only trained 9 hours a week and they did this Ironman, or so-and-so only ate, rabbit food and 2 Tic Tacs and they ran 100 miles, and so-and-so did this and they were like, hey, good for them. That doesn't mean it's good for you, right? Or the best for you to do it long term. But we love to, and that's how society, I think, is getting ourselves. It was way in my rant. Is like there we go. Everyone feels like we have to associate ourselves with something specific all the time, no matter what it is, whether it's a religion, whether it's a political party, whether it's a diet, whether it's an athletic endeavor. We have to, that's how we identify ourselves. Like that's people's Facebook profiles. Like I am a this, I am a that. I'm like, are you? Or are you just more comfortable feeling in or labeling that as who you are? Like, I just think we try so hard to be so much, and all of that effort, a lot of times is wasted because we spend very little time trying to figure out about us and about who we really are, what we really want to do, and what's really best for Mike or what's really best for Robbie, that we're trying to figure out, well, that would be great if I could do it just like him. That's not the point. The point is to do what's best for you. And I think it's a lifelong exploration. I think it's not something that happens overnight, but I think we all have to remember, like, as much as you see, like, plans and promotions and marketing and things, well, the 10 fastest ways, the 3 steps to this, the undisputed way to do this, like, for who? For what? To sell things, or for Joe Blow down the street, or for Timmy on Instagram? Maybe. But why don't we just figure out exactly what's best for you? And that takes a little bit more time. It might take a little bit more effort. It might take a little more faith, and you might not get there tomorrow, but I promise you'll get there and stay there and go farther than you would doing something totally random that has no purpose except for, the general public, not just for, you specifically.
Yeah. And once you enjoy, doing things that you like that add up to like the best you, more than stuff you didn't like, or you're forcing things in because it seemed like someone else was doing it. I think it's just, I mean, there's obviously an endless stream of information out there and you can pick and choose. But like, I do feel like a lot of us, and me included, get married to certain, hypotheses if we see them, and we just buy in all the way. And then it's like, damn it, now I got to go back. Just pick and choose. I think the things that kind of seem right about whatever. It's like, I've been, subconsciously trying to be David Goggins for the last 2 years, but it's just not quite working. You know what I mean?
As you sit here with the shoulder brace on.
I know. It's like, pull-ups. Yeah, I got to wait. I got to recover. And he'll be like, just power through it, man. So, you know what I mean? It's like, but I do like a lot about what he does, but I'm trying to, you just got to, I guess, mold some of like his philosophy into yours, and whatever that may be, him or whoever you like to follow that has like, and that's the other thing, right? It's like, the camera comes on. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not always that way, but like, people come on with a camera and
they get ranty.
2 minutes of video, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, they're like that 24 hours a day. But you don't see I always like compare it to like when we used to go to the bars and you see the person that was always happy and loud and obnoxious and fun, and then you see him for 2 hours, like, man, why can't I be so positive like that? Why can't I be positive like George? He's always like fired up, and then had to get, but the other 22 hours a day he's probably at home like bummed out,
miserable.
Yeah, like just totally like you gotta, everything you see is not what it seems. Maybe,
for the most part.
Maybe it is.
We hope that we are how we seem, and what you hear. Hopefully when you come visit us,
very flawed.
Totally flawed. Yeah, we are. We hope when you meet us, we sound just like, we are just like our podcast, which is exceptionally average. If we can do that,
that was the best compliment ever.
I know, right? Exceptionally average. We are authentically average. So that's what we hope to do. We hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I know I have. If you haven't been and want to go back, hop on. C26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop.
Triathlon.
No, crushing triathlon, not us. Let me rephrase. Start over again as I become below average. If you want to go by, please stop by our website, C26triathlon.com is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. We are still running our club program for 2021. So if you want to learn more about that program, please head on over to the coaching tab, click on that. Let's go around 3, hit the club membership, click on that, and all the information you need is there. Let's go on right now. We'll plan your entire year for you and take care of that, which could be a crazy year, could be an easy year, but who knows? What you will know is that we'll have your back for the year and take care of all the questions you might have or take some stress off your plate and set you up for success. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or the like, you can reach out to Mike at crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you have any questions for me directly, you can always reach out to me at c26coach@gmail.com.
Right. And did you mention, and I am taking on athletes now more and more. So with the custom coaching plan, go to C26 Triathlon, pull down to the custom coaching, and you can read about me and what the heck's going on and what I think about. And,
what he thinks about, yeah. Or you can listen to 441 episodes.
Or you can listen to all these podcasts and know what's up. But I'm, I'm in. So hit me up if you've been thinking about it.
Hit me on the hip, baby. Page number.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I enjoyed it too, man. I appreciate your time today, Coach. And
I'll see you tomorrow.